Once known as Europe's most charming prince, King Charles lived through a series of romances that consumed countless pages of newsprint. He was seen alongside famous, beautiful, and aristocratic women, from public dates to whispered rumors in the shadows. With his handsome appearance and illustrious title, Charles was the epitome of a prince who set countless hearts aflutter. Yet, behind the glamour of fleeting love affairs and weddings watched by the world, there was a heart always questioning, yearning for something deeper. It wasn't until the age of 76, after a lifetime of ups and downs, that King Charles truly opened up about the woman he loved and cherished most. A late confession, but one powerful enough to silence the world. For it was not just a love story, but the missing piece in the portrait of a king whose personal feelings once divided England. From the moment he was born, Prince Charles's fate was sealed by a glittering yet burdensome throne. While other children had played freely under the sun, scribbled with crayons, and tumbled on the grass, young Charles knew only the cold stone walls of Buckingham Palace and the unblinking eyes of nannies, guards, and royal advisors. He wasn't allowed to stumble. He wasn't allowed to get angry. He wasn't allowed to cry in public. Because even before he knew who he was, Charles had to learn to become the symbol of a monarchy. From the way he placed his hands on a table, the tilt of his head when greeting, to the pace of his steps crossing a hallway, every detail of his life was sculpted as if he were a work in progress. But that very perfection allowed no room for error. A mistake wasn't just a fault, it was a threat to the entire system. And Prince Charles, in that gilded solitude, lived like a pawn groomed to be king, but never allowed to be human. When he entered Gordonstoun, the boarding school notorious for its strictness, he wasn't treated as a student but as a symbol to be forged. During his years at Cambridge University, he couldn't simply sit in a cafe debating with friends without scrutinizing stares. He couldn't freely choose his career or his love. His personal emotions, even the most ordinary desires, had to be vetted. Because more than an individual, he was the heir to the throne, a title carrying the weight of 1,000 years of British royal tradition. Yet privilege always comes with duty. He lived in magnificent palaces, had access to the finest education, traveled in luxury cars with doors open for him, and everyone bowed before him. But in return, he was confined in a gilded cage where freedom was taboo. A sneeze could become a headline, and a smile slightly off could be dissected as a political statement. Charles's life was a symphony of rules, rituals, and pre-written scripts. He didn't just learn to be king. He had to embody kingship in his breath, his steps, and even his quietest moments. And perhaps, deep down, the price of the throne wasn't fame or status, but the loss of himself from an age too young to understand who he was. Despite the royal titles and luxurious lifestyle, Charles longed for something very simple: true love. Like anyone else, he wanted someone who would see him as a person, not a prince. Someone who would laugh at his own, understand his fears, and be a safe place when life got too heavy. For a while as a mom, he actually found that kind of love. She was kind, graceful, and full of charm. Around her, Charles felt like a regular man, not someone burdened by a crown. They laughed together, dreamed together, and for once he felt truly alive. But that happiness didn't last. The royal family wasn't built on feelings. It was built on duty, bloodlines, and image. Sadly, the woman Charles loved, wasn't seen as the right fit for the throne. She didn't meet the royal standards. No matter how much he cared for her, he was expected to let her go. And so with a heavy heart, he did just that. He didn't stop loving her. He simply believed he couldn't love her openly. That was one of the harsh prices he had to pay for being born into royalty. This decision left a deep scar. Letting her go haunted Charles for years, but he accepted that royal duty came before his own heart. He gave up what he wanted because that's what was expected of him. Later, he married Lady Diana Spencer, a choice that seemed to tick all the right boxes for the monarchy. She was beautiful, kind, and perfect in the public's eye. Their wedding was like something out of a fairy tale, but real life told a different story. Behind the dazzling ceremonies and glowing headlines, Charles and Diana were not the perfect match people believed. They were very different people thrown into a life they didn't fully understand. Diana found it hard to adjust to royal life. Meanwhile, Charles couldn't stop thinking about the love he had lost. Their marriage slowly started to fall apart. Diana felt alone and unloved. Charles felt like no one really understood him. Both suffered silently, trapped in roles that left them empty. Meanwhile, Camilla, the woman Charles had loved before, was still a quiet presence in his heart. She, too, was hurting. They both carried the weight of choices they didn't want to make. As time went on, the public began to see cracks in the fairy tale. The picture-perfect royal marriage wasn't what it seemed. It became clear that Charles had chosen to follow the rules, not his feelings. He had done everything the royal family asked of him, but it cost him the one person who made him feel truly known. He continued with his royal duties, wearing the royal robes, attending fancy events, and smiling for cameras. But there was always a sadness in his eyes, a quiet ache that never really faded. He had traded love for duty, and even that sacrifice wasn't enough to ease the pressures he carried. That deep pressure led the world to take a closer look, not just at Charles, but at the woman he married. In time, Joanna became the heart of public interest. People wanted to know who she really was. She showed the world something different, something human and heartfelt. She once said that people living with HIV weren't to be feared. They just needed love and support. That one moment touched so many hearts and changed the way people saw her. She brought warmth to a world that often felt cold. But the question remained, what did the world really think of Charles and Diana's marriage? Could it survive the constant spotlight, the expectations, and the heartbreaks? The wedding day of Prince Charles and Lady Diana Spencer was a moment that filled both the royal family and people across the world with joy. Excited crowds lined the streets, waving flags and cheering as the royal couple passed by. Millions more were glued to their television screens, watching what looked like a real-life fairy tale. Diana, just 20 years old, wore a stunning white dress and carried dreams of a happy, loving marriage in her heart. Charles, dressed in his formal royal uniform, waved with pride. To the outside world, it all looked magical. But the truth inside the palace was quite different. From the very start of their relationship, cracks began to show. Diana came from a different world with different experiences and hopes. She was open with her emotions, full of warmth, and eager for love. What she truly wanted was a partner who could show affection, laugh with her, support her when life got hard, and make her feel special. But Charles was raised in a royal environment where emotions were often hidden, and duty came before everything. He had been taught to stay calm, to keep personal feelings buried beneath the surface, and to always put the crown first. Because of this, their marriage lacked the closeness and warmth that Diana had hoped for. She was always reaching out for love, but Charles didn't know how to give it in the way she needed. Though he cared for her, his heart had never fully let go of someone else. That person was Camilla Parker Bowles. Camilla had been in his life long before Diana. She wasn't just an old friend. She held a very special place in his heart. Their connection was deep, and she understood him in ways others didn't. Even after he married Diana, his bond with Camilla never faded. It remained in the background like a shadow that never left. Diana could feel this. She wasn't blind to the fact that her husband's heart wasn't entirely hers. The glow in her smile slowly began to fade as she realized she was living in a world of riches, yet starved of real love. The pain she felt went beyond loneliness. It was the pain of being unseen and unheard, and as though she was living in someone else's love story. It wasn't just sadness, it was the pain of being replaced and emotionally abandoned. At one point, she bravely spoke up during an interview, hinting at her heartbreak by saying there were 3 people in the marriage. That one sentence shook the world, and made people realize that her life wasn't the fairy tale they had imagined. Her words opened people's eyes and made them truly understand the quiet suffering she had endured. On the other side, Charles felt torn. He never stopped caring for Camilla and couldn't bring himself to completely let her go. He didn't want to hurt anyone, but trying to balance both relationships only made things worse. The love triangle between Charles, Diana, and Camilla quickly became one of the biggest royal controversies in modern history. The media couldn't stop talking about it. The world watched and judged, while the three of them lived through emotional turmoil. Behind closed doors, Diana cried alone. Charles carried a heavy heart. Camilla stayed hidden, often criticized by the public. In time, Charles and Diana realized their marriage couldn't be saved. They separated and later divorced, bringing their royal romance to a heartbreaking end. What started as a beautiful dream ended in sorrow, leaving the nation heartbroken and the world forever changed by the story of love, beauty, and loss. Even though Diana and Charles went their separate ways, their positions in the royal family remained the same. Diana, in particular, continued to receive endless love and support from the public. People admired her strength and compassion, especially the way she poured her heart into charity work. Even after the divorce, she used her voice and influence to speak for those who didn't have one. Whether it was comforting sick children or standing up for important global causes, she never stopped caring. Sadly, her incredible journey was cut short in 1997, leaving the world in shock. Her sudden passing sparked countless rumors, and over the years, new claims have emerged suggesting that her death might not have been an accident at all. Some even believe it was planned by powerful forces within the British government. These serious accusations led authorities to take a second look at the case. As for Charles, he was left with deep regrets. After Diana was gone, he realized just how much she had meant to him. Their marriage hadn't been easy, but her presence had touched the world in a way he came to understand far too late. Still, his heart never let go of Camilla, the woman he had loved quietly and faithfully through the years. Even though the weight of royal expectations constantly rested on his shoulders, and the memories of his broken marriage haunted him, he couldn't turn away from his feelings for Camilla. But during Diana's life, the public and the press were not kind to Camilla. She was often blamed for the failure of Charles and Diana's marriage. Many people saw her as the one who came between them. But who really is Camilla? The woman at the center of it all? Let's find out. The woman behind Charles's smiles, her full name is Camilla Rosemary Shand. She was born on July 17, 1947 in London, England, the first child of Rosalind and Major Bruce Shand. Her family came from a wealthy and well-respected background. Much of her early life was spent in the peaceful countryside of East Sussex, where she grew up alongside her younger sister, Annabel Elliot, and her brother, Mark Shand. Interestingly, one of Camilla's great-grandmothers, Alice Keppel, had a past connection to royalty. She was the longtime companion of King Edward VII. As a little girl, Camilla loved to read, a passion she picked up from her father. She grew up surrounded by animals and was especially fond of horses. She started riding at a young age and often joined pony clubs and competed in local events. Looking back, Camilla once described her childhood as completely wonderful. When she was 5, she began attending a small school in her village called Dumbrells. But by the time she turned 10, she moved to Queensgate School in London to continue her education. There, she earned the nickname Mila from her classmates. Her peers and teachers remembered her as bright, full of life, and very sure of herself. Though Camilla didn't follow the usual academic route, she finished Queensgate with just one early-level qualification and didn't go on to complete her A-levels. Her family thought it was better for her to take a different path. So, when she was 16, she was sent to a finishing school in Tolochenaz, Switzerland. After that, she spent 6 months in Paris, where she improved her French and learned about literature. In 1965, Camilla officially entered London society. She was one of 311 young women to make her debut that year. After leaving her family home, she found herself in the company of some well-known figures. She had friendships with Jane Wyndham, a popular interior designer, and Virginia Carrington, who was connected to British nobility. Virginia even married Camilla's uncle for a time and would later become part of the team supporting Camilla and Charles in 2005. Camilla's early adult life was active and filled with purpose. She worked various jobs, including roles as a secretary and a receptionist at a respected decorating firm. She became known not just for her poise and background, but for her warm smile, witty charm, and lively personality that made her stand out wherever she went. When she wasn't working, Camilla loved spending her time outdoors. Horse riding was one of her favorite hobbies, and she regularly joined riding competitions and horse events. She also had a soft spot for painting. Though she took private art lessons from a professional painter, she ended up throwing away most of her pieces, never feeling they were good enough. Still, painting brought her peace. Besides that, she enjoyed fishing, working in her garden, and caring for plants. Those quiet moments with nature always seemed to calm her spirit. Over the years, the world has changed a lot, especially since the 1950s and 60s. Progress has definitely been made, though there's still room to grow. In the 1970s, Camilla crossed paths with Prince Charles at a polo match. Both of them were single at the time, and during one of their conversations, she mentioned that her great-grandmother, Alice Keppel, had once been involved with one of Charles's royal ancestors, King Edward VII. That light-hearted comment sparked something between them. Their friendship quickly grew deeper, and soon they fell in love. But even though their connection was strong, marriage wasn't seen as a real option. There were many opinions floating around. Some people thought Charles was too young to settle down. Others in the royal family didn't see Camilla as a suitable match, believing she didn't come from the right kind of family, one with noble titles or aristocratic roots. At the same time, Camilla still had feelings for Andrew Parker Bowles, an army officer she had dated before. So, while Prince Charles was away for a long period on a naval assignment in 1973, Camilla and Andrew found their way back to each other and decided to get married. Their wedding took place on July 4th, 1973, and it was a grand event. Together, they had two children, Tom, born in 1974, and Laura, who arrived in 1978. Prince Charles was deeply hurt when he learned that Camilla had married someone else while he was away. He felt like he had lost something precious, but he had no choice but to move forward with his life. Eventually, he married Lady Diana Spencer in 1981. After tying the knot, Camilla lived in comfort. She continued riding horses and joined in countryside traditions like fox hunting, which was later made illegal in 2005. Though she ran into money issues in the 1980s due to an insurance mess, she still maintained a pretty comfortable life. During these years, even after her marriage, Camilla and Prince Charles remained close friends. By 1986, the friendship between Camilla and Charles had turned back into something more. Both of them were still married to other people at the time, but their feelings for each other had not faded. Then, in '92, when Prince Charles and Princess Diana officially separated, Diana didn't hold back. She pointed directly at Camilla, blaming her for the collapse of their marriage. That blame felt even heavier when a private phone conversation between Charles and Camilla was leaked to the public in 1993, confirming their closeness. Things became more serious the next year when Prince Charles admitted in a TV interview that he had been involved with Camilla while still married. The public didn't take this well. People were angry and disappointed, but the changes didn't stop there. In 1990, Camilla ended her marriage with Andrew, who soon after married the woman he had been seeing during their marriage. Then, in '96, Prince Charles and Princess Diana finalized their divorce. The following year, in '96, something tragic happened that broke hearts everywhere. Princess Diana passed away from fatal injuries after a car crash. The entire world mourned her loss. That pain also turned into public outrage, especially toward Charles and Camilla. Many couldn't forgive them and saw Camilla as part of the pain Diana endured. Despite the public anger and harsh headlines, Charles stayed by Camilla's side. He reportedly told his team that his relationship with her was something he couldn't let go of, no matter how the world saw it. Wanting to change the public's opinion, He began working behind the scenes to help people see Camilla differently. A key step was arranging for his sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, to meet her in 1998. That moment helped open a door. Then, by the next year, Charles and Camilla finally appeared together in public for the first time at a birthday celebration for her sister. It wasn't just about showing up. It was a signal to the world that they were no longer hiding. As time went on, they continued to be seen together more often, slowly changing how people viewed them. Little by little, the public began to accept Camilla, not just as someone from Charles's past, but as the woman who stood beside him through it all. Camilla and Charles finally shared their big news with the world. On February 10, 2005, when they announced their engagement, Queen Elizabeth II gave them her full blessing, showing her support for their union. A few months later, on April 9th, they officially became husband and wife. Their wedding was a private civil ceremony followed by a church gathering where prayers and blessings were offered for their marriage. Even though marrying Charles gave Camilla the official right to be called the Princess of Wales, she decided not to use that title out of respect for public feelings and history. Instead, she chose to be known as the Duchess of Cornwall, a title also held by Charles. While we have already analyzed who Camilla is and how she got into the royal family, let's examine how she changed the negative narrative about living a royal lifestyle. After their marriage, Camilla began focusing on charity work, and this helped shift how the public saw her. One cause especially close to her heart was raising awareness and supporting treatment for osteoporosis, a painful bone disease that had affected her mother. Camilla also used her voice and position to support other meaningful causes like animal welfare, promoting reading and education, and helping survivors of abuse. When it came to her role in the royal family, Camilla preferred to be addressed as Her Royal Highness, the Princess Consort. This title was confirmed after Queen Elizabeth II passed away and Charles became king. In his very first address to the nation as King Charles III, he expressed deep appreciation for Camilla, thanking her for her unwavering love and commitment to royal duties throughout their 17 years of marriage. On May 6, 2023, something historic happened. Camilla was crowned Queen Consort beside her husband during his coronation ceremony. It was a big moment, marking the first time in 70 years that a coronation had taken place. Despite all that she's done and the quiet grace with which she's taken on her royal responsibilities, people still talk about how her past with Charles affected his marriage to Diana. That part of their story hasn't been forgotten. It leaves many still wondering how this all began. What's the full story behind their romance? The royal love story, Charles and Camilla's journey, started when they met at a sports event, where they were introduced by a mutual friend named Lucia. Right away, they felt a strong connection and soon started dating. But not everyone was happy about their relationship. There was a lot of pressure from outside forces, and they eventually had to go their separate ways and marry other people. Still, they stayed in each other's lives. Camilla was even present at Charles and Diana's wedding. And before Charles and Diane tied the knot in 1981, they had actually visited Camilla and her husband, Andrew Parker Bowles, together in 1982. For the next 5 years, Charles and Camilla kept their distance, but both of their marriages were filled with challenges and disappointments. They were not truly happy, and eventually, they turned back to each other for comfort and understanding. Their connection quietly bloomed again, away from the public eye. Things were going smoothly between them until a personal phone conversation between the two was leaked to the media. That moment exploded into a full-blown scandal and brought a flood of criticism from the public. Even during those hard times, Camilla never left Charles's side. She stayed strong, supporting him through all the negativity. Charles, in return, worked hard to help the world see Camilla differently. He wanted people to see the real woman he loved, the one who stood by him through thick and thin. With time, he helped rebuild her reputation, and eventually, their love story came full circle when he made her his wife in 2000. Since then, Camilla and Charles have continued their journey together, traveling to different countries and creating new memories as partners, not only in marriage but also in royal service. Their love, though once tested by public opinion and personal struggles, has grown stronger with each passing year. Over time, Charles and Camilla have built a quiet, peaceful life together, far away from flashing cameras and nonstop news coverage. This privacy gave them the space to truly enjoy their marriage and find real joy with each other. From the moment they crossed paths again at Balmoral in Scotland to their shared adventures across continents like Australia, their journey became a reminder that everyone deserves happiness and the chance to begin again. As part of their royal responsibilities, they've traveled across the globe, representing the crown with grace and warmth. Recently, King Charles and Queen Camilla visited Kenya for an official trip. They were greeted with a formal welcome in Nairobi, but what stood out most was how lighthearted and friendly they remained. In Northern Ireland, for instance, they surprised the public by happily hopping onto a bus with locals. And during a stop in New Zealand, Camilla made everyone laugh when she jokingly picked up a knife at a vineyard and pretended to be a chef. Their shared experiences over the past 20 years have been filled with unforgettable moments. Whether it was taking part in cultural festivals in Canada or sharing a fun tuk-tuk ride through the streets of Kenya, their story reads like a beautiful blend of duty and deep affection. It's a love that continues to grow quietly, showing us that even behind royal titles, there are real people who seek joy, connection, and peace. Still, no matter how lovely their life together may seem today, people haven't forgotten the heartbreak that came before, especially the sorrow that surrounded Princess Diana. Her story remains at the center of this royal tale, with many still asking what really happened between her and Charles. How did their relationship affect her? Diana had her own side of the story, one she kept tucked away in her private diary, hidden somewhere inside the walls of Kensington Palace. Those pages held her truth, one filled with silent tears and a lonely heart. Through her writings, Diana painted a picture of a young woman who stepped into royal life with hope, only to find disappointment. To Charles, their marriage seemed more like a responsibility than a real romance. But Diana had always believed that getting engaged meant being deeply loved. She had grown up thinking love should be the foundation of marriage. During their engagement at a press event, a reporter asked if they were in love. Diana answered right away with a simple yes, but Charles responded with a strange remark: "Whatever in love means." That moment stuck with Diana and it left her confused and wounded before she even became his wife. After their fairy tale wedding, things didn't improve. During their honeymoon at Broadlands, where the Queen and Prince Philip once spent time as newlyweds, Charles seemed distant. Instead of cherishing time with Diana, he unpacked his books and quietly sat down to read, ignoring her presence. Her diary showed the emotional pain she silently carried. It wasn't one big fight that broke them. It was the steady buildup of feeling ignored year after year. Diana had long feared that Charles was still emotionally tied to Camilla, at the same time as she was under constant pressure to look perfect in front of the world. Behind all the elegant outfits and dazzling smiles was a woman crumbling under the weight of loneliness and unspoken heartbreak. Diana's private thoughts, scribbled on paper, gave the world a glimpse into her soul. A soul that yearned to be loved, but instead felt abandoned in a world where love was buried beneath tradition, image, and royal expectations. Everything finally fell apart during one of their intense arguments, this time about Charles's relationship with Camilla, a topic Diana had already brought up many times before. She had tried to express how deeply it hurt her, but Charles brushed her off again. He told her she was being dramatic and too emotional, as if her pain didn't matter. Diana wrote that this moment broke her completely. It wasn't just what he said, it was the way he made her feel invisible. On another occasion, when Diana brought up his affair again, Charles coldly told her there was nothing she could do about it. Those words cut her deeply. She felt like Camilla was always there between them, like a shadow that never left. No matter how much Diana tried to be the perfect wife, it seemed like Charles's heart was never truly hers. He always looked back to Camilla, and that left Diana feeling empty and unwanted, desperate to make things better. Diana tried different ways to open up to Charles. She wanted to talk to fix what was broken, but most times, Charles didn't seem willing to meet her halfway. He avoided real conversations and kept everything on the surface, leaving Diana to carry her pain by herself. On top of all this, she felt weighed down by the pressure of being part of the royal family. She was no longer just Diana. She was a princess, a wife, a mother. And in all of that, she slowly lost the sense of who she really was. The spotlight was always on her, and yet, inside, she felt lonely. There was a moment Diana recalled when Charles made fun of her in front of others. He laughed at her, and everyone else did, too. But Diana wasn't laughing. She was embarrassed and heartbroken. What hurt more was that Charles didn't even realize how much it affected her. As she grew more beloved by people around the world, Diana noticed that Charles began acting differently. Her kindness, her charm, and her graceful presence won the hearts of millions. And slowly, Diana turned into a symbol of hope and beauty. But instead of being proud of her, Charles seemed jealous. He didn't like how the world adored her. According to Diana's reflections, he felt pushed aside, like he was no longer the main figure. His insecurities showed through small jabs, comments about her appearance, her efforts, or the way the public responded to her. These things chipped away at Diana's confidence over time. The emotional weight became too much. She sank into depression, battled with eating disorders, and at some of her lowest points, she even thought about ending her life. Still, the birth of her two sons brought a spark of light into her dark world. They gave her strength. They reminded her of love, the kind that was real and pure. For their sake, Diana tried to hold her marriage together, hoping things would improve. But it didn't. The damage ran too deep, and the bond that was once full of hope had now turned into silence and distance. Although everything became silent, something remained so loud for the world to see, and this was her legacy. Diana's enduring influence on the royal family. Even after all these years, Diana's memory still feels fresh in people's hearts, and her story continues to stir deep feelings, especially when it comes to Camilla. In early 2022, something happened that left many royal fans hurt and upset. Queen Camilla decided to change one of Diana's most treasured necklaces into a brooch. This wasn't just any necklace. It was a beautiful piece made of emeralds and diamonds, once gifted to Diana by the Queen Mother. Diana wore it with so much grace and charm, especially when she styled it as a choker during her famous visit to Australia. That necklace had become part of her image, something people remembered her by. So when Camilla altered it, it didn't feel like a simple fashion choice. To many people, it felt like a very personal move, like a silent message that stirred up the painful past. Given everything between Diana and Camilla, people were quick to react. Many felt it was not only unkind but also disrespectful. Considering the emotional history tied to the necklace, it wasn't just about the piece of jewelry. It was about what that jewelry stood for. The painful love triangle between Charles, Diana, and Camilla still sits heavily with people even now. The truth is, Camilla and Charles's relationship didn't begin with love in the way fairy tales often tell it. It started as a quiet affair while Charles was still married to Diana. And over the years, this story shaped how people looked at the royal family. The shadow of that affair still hangs in the air. Even with Diana gone and Camilla now officially the queen consort, no matter how much time passes, people still compare the two women. So when Camilla stepped out wearing that redesigned necklace, it wasn't just jewelry. It felt like a symbol, a reminder of old wounds. Jewelry expert Maxwell Stone mentioned that while royal jewels usually get passed down through generations, this one was different. It carried deep meaning because it belonged to someone who touched hearts all over the world. When this piece suddenly appeared in a new form, people wondered, was this a thoughtful tribute or something else? Many online voices questioned the timing and the intention. Was it an innocent fashion choice? Or was it a quieter way of showing power? The reactions were strong because when it comes to Diana, emotions always run deep. The bond between Diana and Camilla was never friendly, and there was no real trust between them. When Diana first met Camilla, She had no clue that this woman had a romantic past with Charles. She didn't realize that the same woman who greeted her with a warm smile had once been close to her future husband and still held some control over him. Royal author Penny Junor explained that Diana only found out about their history after she had already said yes to marrying Charles. That discovery must have been a shock for her. Things became even clearer after a private lunch that left Diana feeling uneasy. As written in Andrew Morton's book, Camilla had invited Diana out for a meal while Charles was away with royal duties. At first, it seemed like a kind gesture, but the conversation quickly turned strange. Camilla kept bringing up the topic of hunting and even asked if Diana would be joining Charles for it after they got married. Diana, who wasn't interested in hunting, kindly said no. But what caught her attention wasn't the question. It was the look on Camilla's face when she heard the answer. Camilla looked almost happy or relieved. And that's when Diana realized the truth. That lunch wasn't about building a connection. It was Camilla trying to measure her up, like a quiet competition between the two. Diana later shared how she always felt like Camilla was a constant shadow in her marriage. And sadly, she was right. When asked later if Camilla had anything to do with the failure of her marriage, Diana admitted that it always felt like there were three people in the relationship, not just two. That emotional pain left a deep mark, not just on Diana, but on the entire royal family. Today, even after all this time, Diana's story still touches so many people. Her honesty, her sadness, and her strength continue to echo through the years. And maybe that's why the world is still so drawn to her life and what she went through. Her truth still matters, and her memory hasn't faded. Princess Diana's memory still touches hearts deeply, just as it did when she was alive. Even though many years have passed since the heartbreaking car crash in '99 and that also took the life of her companion, Dodi Fayed, the love people feel for her hasn't faded. She is still seen as one of the most admired members of the royal family. Not because of her title, but because she was different, kind, bold, and true to herself. Diana wasn't just known for her royal duties or fancy appearances. She was a caring mother and a woman who truly wanted to help people. While others smiled for cameras and followed royal traditions, she stepped out of the usual path. She wanted real moments with people, and that's exactly what made her special. During a time when the world was full of fear and misunderstanding about AIDS, Diana broke that fear by hugging patients and holding their hands without hesitation. She showed love when others looked away. She also met people affected by leprosy and didn't wear gloves, choosing to shake their hands and remind the world that they mattered too. She even walked across areas full of landmines to raise awareness, showing that true royalty means protecting lives, not just wearing a crown or standing on a balcony. Diana's actions made the royal family seem closer to the people. She reminded everyone that being royal isn't about distance. It's about making a difference. Behind all the glamour, though, Diana struggled. Life inside the palace wasn't as perfect as it looked. She once told a Canadian leader how hard it was to adjust to the strict expectations of royal life. But instead of letting it break her, she poured her energy into charity work. She found strength in helping others. By 1991, she had already taken part in almost 400 official events in 1 year alone. That showed just how deeply committed she was to using her voice and status to bring comfort, change, and hope to the world. Diana's influence was so strong and heartfelt that Stephen Lee, who led the UK Institute of Charity Fundraising Managers, once called her the most important charitable figure of the entire 20th century. That says a lot about the kind of person she was. Even now, Simwan, long after her passing, the effect she had on the royal family is easy to see. Both Catherine and Meghan Markle have often been compared to her, not just because of their style, but because of how warmly they connect with people. Like Diana, they've used their roles to tear down the walls between the royal family and everyday people, helping the monarchy feel more modern and easier to relate to. The way these women carry themselves with grace and care through their charity work and kindness clearly shows they're inspired by the path Diana once walked. Though she's no longer here, Her presence can still be felt in every warm gesture and sincere interaction. She truly changed how the royals relate to the public, helping them seem more compassionate and in touch with real-world struggles. Diana wasn't just someone people admired. She was someone they deeply loved because she made people feel seen, heard, and important. She always aimed to bring calm during tough moments. She never let strong emotions take over or allow things to spiral. She was like a rock in the family, strong, steady, and focused on helping everyone stay grounded. That's the kind of person she was. And now, then, her efforts to keep the peace are still remembered and felt, even in today's challenges. As for Prince Harry, being far from home doesn't take away the deep bond he had with his mother. He's been feeling a mix of pride and sorrow. For him, Diana wasn't just a figure in history, she was his mom, his guiding light. This recent situation brings all those feelings back, reminding him of the love and strength she gave him. Her memory continues to shape his life, just as it shapes the entire royal family story. Diana didn't just follow royal rules, she rewrote them. She became a symbol of love, bravery, and warmth. She showed everyone that being a royal wasn't about distance or tradition. It was about connecting with people and showing true compassion. Today, her legacy lives on through her sons, and even Princess Anne, who now shows the same spirit of service and care. Princess Anne's decision to honor Diana in her own way is pushing the royal family to take another look at how they serve and how they're seen by the public. It's a reminder that kindness and empathy matter just as much, if not more, than titles and crowns. For Queen Camilla, moments like these come with challenges. She has worked hard to find her place in the royal family, but Diana's shadow still lingers. It's not just about how Camilla feels. It's about how the world remembers Diana and holds on to her memory with so much emotion. Her legacy makes people question how the royal family continues to grow and change. And that's what makes Diana so unforgettable. She broke old traditions by doing simple yet powerful things, like crouching to speak with a child at eye level or holding hands with someone who felt rejected by society. These may have seemed like small moments, but they meant everything. King Charles's late-life confession of love, at the age of 76, has not only moved the public, but also raised deep questions about love, sacrifice, and the true cost of royal duty. Was it an act of courage to finally follow his heart, or a last attempt to regain public sympathy from a nation that still mourns Princess Diana's memory? And what about Camilla? Once labeled the other woman and now crowned queen consort, has she truly been accepted in the hearts of the people? Their love, enduring over decades, has survived scandal, resistance, and judgment. But can time really erase all wounds? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if you found it compelling, and subscribe to the channel to continue exploring the hidden stories behind the British royal family. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.